My clothes are drying. Very simple. I think it's maybe the second time I've used these kinds of washers and dryers. I used it before when I traveled modeling for 7 years, for 3 years, and I lived at home for 4. From 2001 to 2007. But it's been 20 years total with agency contracts. 22 agency contracts. Print, commercials, theatrical, runway. And then it's in-store blogging through a runway division. The most amount of paid jobs through an agency. So they're the highest paid bloggers, professional paid jobs through an agency. Anti-slave trade. Support the whole economy. So for instance, an example is my stepdad who spent 80 to make 30 in real estate. But it's like that for the highest paid celebrity businesses who are not slave trade. And so they bring in this business network and it's commercial real estate. It's really hard to sell buildings. So basically, I had the place to live and the cars from my dad and the car insurance from my mom. And then I happened to have gotten the modeling checks, but other models were not paid. And so it's really important to understand I got the $10,000 a year for 20 years and the 3 cars in 20 years. So it's like $35,000 a year for 20 years and a place to live. But it actually costs that for a model to live out for 20 years, the place to live, but they could live on a budget for $4,500 per month rent every year. And they could have the $80,000, which would last 8 years in order to survive when they don't have parents or they're sinned against. And so basically, they would have to have the $10,000 a year for 20 years, and they could live out if they find the low rent for $400 a month. But every client broke the law, and they were paid every 6 to 8 months. So they didn't get the $10,000 a year each month for 20 years. No client obeyed the law, and they wouldn't have it for 20 years. And then none of the families paid the $550 as a referral for $550 as a referral for $550, which would make it so that they could have referrals through the FBI doctors and lawyers who have $250 to pay $90. It's really hard when no one pays them, or the charity owners, the church they belong to. And so they just didn't get the $80,000 a year it costs to be a model. And so it's actually slavery when they're not paid the $10,000 a year each month for 20 years. So a lot of models don't talk to their parents because they would have to have the $10,000 a year for 20 years. So they lied about that they would need a different job, and they're never forced counseling, diagnosed, or forced more manual labor after 100 years of hours in their body. They can't, because it's the church of abortion to crucify their body and make it so they can't have children. And so they don't need surgery, but they can't do 11 hours a day, sitting and standing Monday through Sunday, and 16 hours a day on their hands, when it's 8 hours a day on their hands, besides the 11 hours of driving city to suburbia. So it would kill their hands and spine after 20 years of 16 hours a day. So it's 8 hours a day, Monday through Sunday, besides the 11 hours a day for 20 years. At $300 businesses who hooked them up.